If you're new to Notion, you may just now be unlocking all of the amazing things that you can do in here. And I really wanted this to be a space that wasn't only functional, but also looked nice. I do almost my entire day out of here, so I want it to be a place that I feel inspired and creative. And while it is a pretty simple layout, there's a few simple things that I did using a lot of Notion's own databases and options in order to create this look. So today we're going to walk through how to make your Notion more aesthetic using both the Notion native integrations and some outside tools and widgets to just make this look a little nicer. First thing, we're going to talk about customizing fonts. Fonts make a huge difference in the way that your page looks. And while this, doesn't look bad here, there are some options in Notion itself that you can change up. If you like the mono look, this will make everything quite a bit wider, but it looks really clean and pretty. There's a serif font, which gives it a little bit more of a professional feminine feel. And then, of course, there's the default style. But if you didn't know, there are other ways to add custom fonts that look really nice in here as well. So if I wanted to take this title, for example, and just add a little bit more of a fancy look to it, I can go to lingojam.com and I can choose one of their fonts from Lingojam that will just look a little bit nicer and look a little bit more unique for this page. You can get really crazy with it, obviously, but I like to just add a few small things that just make it look a little bit cleaner. This one is one of my favorite font options, and I think that it looks really nice on the page to mix it up. You can also use the same Lingojam website for the titles of your pages. It doesn't have to just be in the content itself, but it can actually be in here as well, which is very nice. There's a ton of different options, fancy fonts. If you just Google it, there's a bunch of websites that do this, but this is one of my favorites. Next, let's talk about the page settings. As already discussed, the title of your page can be customized, but you can also add emojis into the page title. Personally, when I make a new page, I always toggle this full width option. Without it, you have white space on either side, and because I have an ultra wide screen, I like to take advantage of that, so I always toggle the full width. Often if I have a page that has a lot of data on it, but I don't necessarily need to reread it often, I'll switch the font to small text. This makes it look a little cleaner and a little tidier. It really just makes the padding a little bit tighter. There are also options under the customize page setting here. If I open this up, I'll be able to see whether top level discussions are listed or not. This is great if you only use Notion by yourself or if there's a page that maybe is just private to you. I usually turn this off. It just hides that comment area up top. You can also choose if you want to show backlinks or not. If you want to show the backlinks, you can show them in a popover or expanded out, but I like to turn these off as well. And then, of course, if there's page comments, you can set it to the default or just minimal. In addition to that, like I said, I'm currently living in a database right now. In this setting, you can also hide or show any of the properties that you want. But more than that, if you have a property that's a related property, for example, my channel property here, you can choose to show it as its own page section. And what that will do is add it actually to the page here, and you'll see those 6 dots appear just like they would in any other block, but you can't actually move them around like you would want to. If you want to change this at any time, you can click on those 6 dots and you can choose to show this as a minimal option as well. So this will just show the settings up top here, and if you click on it, it will show an expanded version, but it's not going to be as invasive as an actual property up here. This is great if you want to show specific information within the body of your content. One of my favorite things to do to just add some customization is to add covers. Now, you probably already know about the gallery, about uploading your own options, adding links, Unsplash, but one of my favorite things to do is actually to use color palettes as my background. So I just designed some banners in Canva and I made them all different colors. So now I can just have a solid color background up top, but where this really shines is when you have an entire database showing as cards, just like this one. So for this database, I have my layout sent to gallery. And then in the gallery settings, I have the card preview showing the page cover, not the page content. And that just shows this nice little color block, and it makes it really easy to kind of identify what color's what. You don't have to just use colors, though. You can definitely use banners like this, with actual art in it or drawings or photography, but this just adds a nice little pop of color to your Notion workspace, and it just helps you easily identify different pages. Next, let's talk about icons. Obviously, every page can have an emoji icon, and then they can also have these native Notion icons. There are 10 different colors, and you can choose to be asked every time what color you want, or you can just set your color that you're going to use for the database or the page if you're going to color code everything all at once. I do really like the Notion icons, but I also like my titles and my tables to match the Notion icons, and unfortunately, you cannot yet do that. You can add emojis to this text, but you can't add the Notion icons in here. So instead, I usually opt to do custom icons, and I'll show you an example of one of these. I get my icons from a couple different places. The first one is Icons 8, and that's where this icon actually is from. And it's a beautiful icon. I do love it. But one of my favorite things to do is to use GIFs as icons. And for that, I usually use Lord Icon. Lord Icon has these cute little GIF icons that you can use. And I like these because not only do they move, but you can also customize all the colors of these as well as the line weight, and they have a ton of different options. So if you like this style, this might be a really good thing to look into. You can also set GIFs as your covers. I prefer not to do that because I notice that it makes the load time a bit slower, but I do like to use it for the icons themselves. All right, let's move on to blocks because there's actually a ton of different ways to use Notion blocks to make really nice looking sections. And obviously, we've got dividers. Dividers are a great way to separate data and to mix it up. I do love using dividers and I like the look of them. But if you feel like you don't like how the entire page goes across, I would definitely recommend using columns. Anywhere in your page, you can backslash and you can do 2 col, 3 col, all the way up to 4 columns. And what that will do is create these different columns for you to drag your content into. So for example, if I wanted to move all of this up into our 4 columns, then we can adjust the size down to be whatever we want and keep those dividers a little bit tidier in here. Next up, I love to use callouts. Callouts are a fantastic way to add a little bit of a box around our content. So you can see I use callouts around my areas database. I have it around my navigation links, I have it around my calendar, and then around these other 2 databases. And I really like the look of that. It just helps separate them out a little bit better than columns, in my opinion. To do that, you're going to make a callout box. And if you didn't already know, you can change the color of your callout box. So I changed mine to the default background, and that takes it from looking like kind of a sticky note looking thing, and it makes it more of just a border on the page. You can obviously customize this icon, and once again, you can use those custom icons that we talked about earlier to have some consistency with the look of your icons. Now I have a cute looking area for all of my notes. Now let's talk about databases, because while I love embedding them in pages, as you can see here, there is a lot of data that comes with it that isn't always the most pretty looking. So let's talk about how to make this as clean and minimal as possible. So down here I have a database, and as you can see, we have our title, we have the name of the view, and then we obviously have all of our settings over here. So if I had a filter and a sort set, we're adding even more content here for us to look at. So the first thing that I would recommend is going ahead and doing one of those callout blocks around your table. I think that always cleans it up a bit and just looks really nice when you're looking at it. Instead of using this default title of your table, I also think it looks nicer to create your own title. So if you hover over the title, you'll be able to double click on those 3 dots and hide the database title itself. Then you can make your new title up top here, and you can add bold, italics, you can make it as small or as large as you want. Another option is to use those custom fonts that we had talked about as a title. There's some larger versions of these fonts, so if you like that look, you can definitely do that here as well. Next up, we want to make sure that we're hiding all of this section here. So although we want filters and sorts on, if you just click on one of these, it'll toggle that on and off. So make sure it's toggled off, and that will help clean it up. For the table itself, there's not a ton that you can do to actually hide this title, but you can rename it. And one of the things I like to do is to use emojis in here and just give it something really simple to look at so that it's a little bit smaller and less noticeable. Or you can use different colors to stick to your color theme. The other option is you can just name it with a simple space, and that will just make it this little table icon so that it's literally just an icon, and that helps clean it up quite a bit as well. As a general rule, I like to use my tables pretty sparingly and only show databases in other views. So, for example, this gallery view, this month view, this list view, and again, a gallery view or a card view. There are a lot of different views that you can choose from. That's not a table. Tables are great for entering a lot of data in, but if you just want a quick look at a dashboard, then some of these other views are much better suited to it. Now let's talk about things that are outside of Notion that can really make a difference for just making your Notion a little bit more aesthetic. The first one is Action. And while this is a fantastic tool in itself, it's basically just a library of widgets and things that you can add into your Notion via the embed option. For example, this little flick clock here. This shows me the time. I can change the color. I can change it to 24 hours, and I can resize it as needed. Personally, I love the way that these look, and while I do like having them in my system, I try to keep them as minimal as possible because it does add to that load time that I talked about earlier. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the actual template I'm using itself. This is called the Ultimate Brain Template from Thomas Frank. And I am an affiliate for him, but I only became affiliate after I had already purchased this for myself. I actually have both the Ultimate Brain and his other template, Creator's Companion. These are two tools that I use together to create content, to plan my life, and to use as a personal knowledge management system. I absolutely love his templates, and they can be a bit pricey, but I think that they are well worth it if you're serious about your Notion journey and you want to do more with Notion. I'll post my affiliate link as well as all of the other links we talked about today down in the description box below. And I'll also share a link to a copy of this page so that you can jump in and play around with it and access all these links in one spot. Let me know if you learned anything new today or if you have any tools that you absolutely love for Notion, and I cannot wait to see what you guys create. Thanks for watching.